Hello everyone, this is Yingting from the University of Tokyo. I'm presenting research outcomes in regard to facilitating online problem-solving collaboration. This paper was co-authored by my supervisors, Taro Kanno and Kazuo Furuta. We need to schedule a meeting for this. Does this quote sound familiar to you? We work together to solve problems. When we encounter a problem, many of us talk to others to come up with solutions together. On the other hand, when we hear this request, the initial reaction might not necessarily be positive. Meetings are perceived as a waste of time due to low efficiency. It was found that the top three causes of unpleasant meetings are not being helpful, failure to stick to the agenda, and a lack of progress and conclusion. Research has shown that meetings are more likely to succeed if appropriate structure and intervention are offered. Moreover, the three issues listed here are more likely to occur in problem-solving meetings at which higher-level cognitive processes are used. Thus, facilitation needed to resolve these issues should not only address meeting setups but also guide the thought process. There are two research questions we would like to ask in this study. Does problem-solving performance differ between online and face-to-face meetings? Does facilitation improve problem-solving performance when different formats are used? We asked research question 1 to determine the influence of the platform use on problem solving. This is an important question against the background that the number of online meetings in workplace continues to increase, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic. We asked research question 2 to determine ways to support qualitative problem-solving collaboration regardless of whether the meeting is conducted online or face-to-face. There are two key factors in this study, a complex problem and the facilitation guidelines. Regarding the complex problem, we use a simulator of the operation of a cafe booth in which problem solvers develop operational strategy to maximize profit. This is the UI of the simulator. Participants were able to input their decisions on the left-hand side, such as how many people to hire, how to price the drinks, etc. After they finishing inputting all the decisions and run the simulation, they will obtain the decision-making effectiveness report on the right-hand side. Regarding the facilitation guidelines, we propose 13 Q-based metacognitive prompts. In the previous study, it was found that such prompts help participants build more comprehensive problem spaces. The statements in this study can be applied at different cognitive stages of problem solving. Now I will move on to the method used in this study. In this session, I will briefly introduce the sample collected, the experiment design, and how the discussion outcomes and facilitation were evaluated. We recruited 80 young professionals who used video conferencing software at work. 58% of them were female. The average age was around 27. The experiment used a factorial design with two factors, format and facilitation. The two photos show the face-to-face and online setting of non-facilitated discussions. Each participant had their own laptop and extended display. The equipment settings are the same in the facilitated discussion. The facilitator joined the discussion using the same format as the participants. To evaluate the performance of the discussions, we refer to three performance indicators listed here. The first one is balance. It's the monthly profit and loss, a naive indicator that quickly reflects the effect of decision making. The second indicator is the overall performance score. It is the sum of all values listed on the performance report that transfer to a single scale. This indicator shows the ability to balance the interrelated elements in a problem space. The final indicator is the participant satisfaction. We ask participants to provide feedback after the discussion as how satisfied they are regarding the problem-solving process, the outcome, and their partner. The indicator is the average value of all these satisfaction scores. The facilitation features were analyzed from three perspectives: how many times the statement was used, the timing of intervention, and how useful the statement was from the participant's perspective. The results can also tell us about difference in facilitation needs on the two platforms. That's all regarding the method. Now I will show you some key results from this study. This session covers 3 points. It introduced the difference in performance on two platforms, explained the reasons behind differences, and explained the potential role that facilitation can play to eliminate the differences. Differences between online and face-to-face problem-solving performance were shown through three indicators. The blue bar indicated non-facilitated discussion, and the orange one showed the facilitated ones. We found that in face-to-face discussions, facilitation slightly reduced the average performance and caused greater variations in satisfaction. Among online discussion, the facilitated ones had higher score for both balance and overall performance. For the discussion that were not facilitated, format caused a significant difference in the overall performance score. Through a regression analysis, we investigated the causes of the differences mentioned in the previous slide. We found that facilitation has a positive influence on balance. Additionally, whether a discussion is conducted online influences the overall performance score. Satisfaction shows a different nature with and without facilitation. When the discussion was not facilitated, the participants were more satisfied when they felt they understood the scenario thoroughly and were able to keep tracking the effectiveness of their decision. On the other hand, in the facilitated discussion, the satisfaction was influenced by all problem-solving related abilities that the facilitation emphasized. As previously mentioned, the intervention timing and the frequency of use of each statement were examined. These statements were used in different manners when discussion was conducted in different formats. In online discussions, A. To apply personal experience was used at an earlier stage. B. To document newly obtained information, and C. Turn-taking was used more often. Moreover, B tended to last until the later part of the discussion. Now let's move on to the discussion and insight portion of this study. At the beginning of this presentation, I mentioned two research questions. Research question 1 was to determine the differences in problem-solving performance between online and face-to-face problem-solving discussions. According to the result obtained, we perceived that participants tend to focus on a single goal rather than balancing all factors in an online environment. Such a discrepancy might be caused by the changes in conversational patterns when different formats are used. Hence, although the conferencing tool enables synchronous collaboration, we should still bear in mind that the thought process can still differ. Finally, we believe that the problem solver's satisfaction is less likely to be affected by the format used than by the facilitation received. Based on this opinion, we suggested that the purpose of the meeting should be considered before the format is chosen. We believe that the online format is good for quick and straightforward decision-making, while multiple factors need to be balanced. It's better to use face-to-face setting. The second research question regarded the influence of facilitation on problem-solving performance when different formats are used. Overall, the guidelines we proposed were found to be helpful. However, the level of helpfulness varied between the two formats due to the context complexity. A face-to-face discussion is more complex than an online one because the interaction tends to be more intense. Therefore, the facilitation might be considered as an interruption rather than helpful when problem solvers' mental efforts need to be allocated to process multiple things. We suggest that organizations to use standardized software and build considered interaction protocols so that the relevant cognitive processes can be easily triggered with simple instructions and effort can be conserved. To conclude this presentation, this study aims to bridge the gap in the existing research wherein few guidelines for online problem-solving meetings has been designed from the cognitive perspective. This study offers three main contributions. First, it showed a quantifiable difference in problem-solving performance between online and face-to-face discussion. Second, it improved the existing facilitation guidelines and verified the effectiveness of facilitation in problem-solving discussion. Finally, it proposed future research direction for CSCW design that support complex problem-solving collaboration from a cognition-oriented perspective. That's all for my presentation. Thank you very much for listening.